Chef Colleen Serra, and today I will be introducing a medicinal cocktail to you. We're making a hot toddy. So this is my version, and I'm going to teach you to make your own version as well. So what I have here is like my favorite tool. This is a French press. I think I do everything in here. And I've gone ahead and put some spring water on the stove, and I'm heating it. You can use tap water, filtered water, whatever you'd like. And the reason today that I'm doing the hot toddy is it's a great medicinal tool for the winter blues, colds, bronchitis. I checked with my doctor, and my doctor said it's a good recommendation. The only thing is, he said maybe 1 or 2 a day. Don't drink too many and get dehydrated, because you're not going to want to be dehydrated with the cold or flu. You're going to want to keep those fluids in your body. So my version is I've got some whiskey. You could use a really nice cognac if you'd like. This is St. Germain Liqueur. This is one of my favorites. I've also got here a jar of elderflower flowers. Elderflower is what St. Germain is made of. Recently, I saw something really fun. It was from the latest royal wedding. When they did the wedding cake, the queen had elderflower trees outside of her bedroom window. And the pastry chef went ahead and picked them and incorporated them into the wedding cake. And I thought that was a really nice, novel idea. She made a beautiful syrup and made it really meaningful. So I'm going to go ahead and take, these are organic lemons. These are what I prefer to use. I'm going to take the end off the lemon with a really nice sharp paring knife. And then I'm going to go ahead and just cut some slices. That's pretty funny. I was just kind of laughing inside. I went like this with my paring knife. Never do that. You always have more control over your knife when you hold your knife with your thumb right here. That way you can't cut yourself. And you're going to want to make sure that there are no little seeds in here. They would stay inside the French press, but I like to pull them out. We're going to go ahead and put those right inside the press. Like 4 slices is good. If you like it really lemony, maybe 5. I brought 2 honeys with me today. I've got Manuka Honey. This is from New Zealand, sorry. Manuka Honey has many, many healing properties. You can see that this has a really, it's a rich honey, and it has a really, really amber texture and color to it. This is a star thistle honey. This one is from Michigan. So we're filming in Michigan, and this one here is going to give you a lot of immune properties. So that'll really, really help with that cold. And I'm going to put a nice little spoonful right in there. Maybe like a spoon and a half. And you can do this to your liking and to your taste. Next, I'm going to add about a teaspoon of elderflowers. I always measure with my hands because I'm used to it. Put those right in there. And then I'm going to go to the stove and see if the water's heated. It's nice and hot. So I'm going to go ahead and put about 1.5 cups in of the water. We're going to let this infusion infuse. You're going to want to get that steaming hot. Then you're going to go ahead and pour your whiskey in. And the wonderful thing about the French press is you'll see it's got like a little strainer on top. And I would infuse that for at least 8 minutes. Another fun thing you can do is if you don't have the elderflower little flowers and you want a different flavor, you could go ahead and use different teas. You could put like a ginger tea, echinacea, elderberry, whatever you have at home. You can add it to it. So remember, tea does dehydrate your system. So go ahead and use a tea that you know, is an herbal tea as opposed to like a black tea or a rooibos. And what I'm going to do is go ahead, instead of letting it infuse right now so that you could see, go ahead and pour some of that into the mug. And you don't have to do this, but this is for fun. Just a tad bit of elderflower liqueur. And for fun again, maybe one more wheel of lemon. Cut a little slit in it and put it on your glass. And there you are, your hot toddy. Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to make a pumpkin barley risotto. So I've been out shopping and I found a really fun little butternut squash, and I couldn't find the pumpkin I wanted yet this year because we're not into that season as of yet. So I got a really wonderful box of organic pumpkin puree. We're going to go ahead and use that. You can also use like a Japanese pumpkin. It's called the kabocha squash. That has a wonderful flavor. It's great in soups and pies and risotto. And then also butternut squash is wonderful as well. So I talked to a pumpkin farmer and he was a lot of fun. He told me that we never ever use pumpkins in our pumpkin pie. We also always use butternut squash because it has more flavor. So give it a try. I'm going to start with going ahead and cutting an onion. I'm going to take off the top of the onion and also the root end. So if you see, I did not cut all the way through the root, so the onion is going to stay together once I get it peeled. And it never fails. When I'm teaching, I can never get the peel off, but when there's no one in the room, the skin, I mean, comes off very easy. So we'll just take our time and get it done. It's got a lot of juice in it. It's all over my hands. One time I taught a knife skills cooking class, and we used red onions in the class, and there were 40 people in the room and every single person was crying, and it was kind of funny. I've seen Paula Deen use onion goggles, and so many different people have different tricks when cutting onions. And I also realized it hits certain people stronger than others. Okay, so I've got it peeled, all the skin is off, and I'm going to go ahead and use a claw hand again so that the onion doesn't roll away from me, and also I don't cut into my fingers. I'm going to put the onion on its side, flat hand, and I'm going to go in probably at like 1/4 of an inch, about 9/10 of the way through the onion. Then we're going to take the onion and grip it the same way and make about 1/4 inch cuts into that onion. And it's amazing. You can get 10 chefs in a room, and 10 chefs have 10 different ways to cut an onion. I did a cooking class one time with another chef, and he basically left the whole onion whole and cut right down into it and ended up with a beautiful cut onion. So now we have like a 1/4 inch dice, and you get to the end of the onion and you just chop around the root. And you can discard that or continue chopping if you'd like. And again, I'm going to go in with a flat hand. At 1/4 inch intervals and cut down the same way with my claw hand holding on to it. And chop right into it. Again at about 1/4 inch. And today I sharpened my knives nice and sharp so I don't cut myself. It's a big thing. A lot of people buy knives like online, but the best way to do it is actually go into a store and hold the knife and see if it feels comfortable in your hand. Some knives are too bulky. I have small hands, so I prefer smaller knives for certain things. Some knives are really, really bulky, and the weight of them drags your hand down. So you want a knife that fits you. So the best thing to do is actually go into a store and chop with a knife and see if you prefer that knife before you purchase it. Because if you don't have the right tools, you cannot do the job right. Okay, all right. So I'm over here crying already, but we'll move on. Okay. So we're going to need thyme. And we're going to need about a teaspoon of thyme. This is a beautiful bunch of organic thyme. I prefer organic. We're going to open it up. And go ahead. And what you're going to do is kind of hold it at the top and pull against the grain with it. When I do French cooking, I like to actually just toss this whole piece in the dish. The reason is it infuses it with so much flavor, and you know, you can later on just go ahead and pick this woody end right out, and you've got more flavor in your dish. And thyme, you want to get the little tiny leaves off of the stem because it's quite woody like rosemary is. So if you have these little tiny guys, you're going to want to pick them out. And we've actually got about a teaspoon here that we need. And I'm just going to go ahead and put a little light chop on it. Make sure there's no sticks in there. Okay. And that thyme is going to go right in here in my little measuring cup just to hold on to it for later. And we're going to need about the same amount of sage. This is a really, really beautiful sage. I grew this in my garden. I have a beautiful herb garden at home. And this is actually pineapple sage. And I make a pineapple cake with, a pumpkin cake with pineapple filling, golden pineapple filling in it. So I thought that this would enhance our risotto today. So what I did was I rolled it up. And we're going to do a chiffonade cut. I'm going to use a claw hand again, and we're going to cut little tiny thin slivers of sage. And then go ahead and do a nice rough chop on it. And there we go. So we're going to add that in with the thyme and save it for later. What we're doing right now is just prepping all our mise en place. That means all of our ingredients. So when doing a recipe or even working in a restaurant, you want to make sure you have all of your mise en place gathered so that you don't have to run out to the store if you forgot something right in the middle of the recipe. I've got some beautiful Parmesan cheese right on the rind here. I went ahead and grated most of it because I don't think you want to sit here and watch me grate cheese all day because it takes some time. I prefer to grate my own if I have time to do it. If you're saving time, then you're going to want to go ahead and buy pre-grated Parm. So I think we've got enough here. The recipe is 1 1/4 cups. And then I've got a chunk of fontina cheese for later on. So we'll hold that on the cutting board for later. And then I've got a nice bulb of organic garlic. I'm going to go ahead and smash it down a little bit so that the peel or the skin comes off easier, whichever you prefer. There we go. Okay, so 2 cloves for the recipe. Got a little brown mark I'm going to cut out. And then a claw hand again. I'm going to go in and chop it. Also, got a microplane here. You could use the microplane and go like this, and I'm not cutting my fingers. I know a lot of people ask me, don't you cut your fingers with that? It does not cut your fingers, okay? So you can do it 2 different ways. So we're going to go keep chopping this. And you don't want to make a paste. You want it little chunks. And voila, we've got chopped garlic. And that's going to go in the measuring cup here. And I want to show you the barley I have. So I've got a beautiful pearl barley. And the reason I chose barley is it's hardier for fall. During this time of the year, you want a little bit heavier food than you've been eating in the summer. And the barley has fiber in it, inulin fiber, and also it's wonderful for your cholesterol. So we're going to go ahead and use that today instead of rice for our risotto. So we're going to go over to the stove now. So we're at the stove and we are going to start the pumpkin barley risotto. I'm going to turn the flame up to probably like a medium heat. Now I'm going to coat the bottom of my pan with olive oil. So olive oil is a great sauteing oil, frying oil. Just depends on which type of olive oil we're using. So something more delicate is not going to be great. I'm not talking deep frying, I'm talking like sauteing. So you're going to want to use like a coconut oil or a peanut oil for frying. So olive oil's got a lot of omegas in it. It's heart healthy and it's perfect for a healthy risotto dish. So what I'm doing is I'm getting this heated, and when it's ready, what's going to happen is you'll see like a slight shimmer in the bottom of the pan. The oil is going to kind of move around a little bit, and then we'll be ready to put our chopped onion into the pan and saute that till it's translucent. I also went ahead and took a quart of organic chicken stock. The chicken stock is in a small pan in back of the stove here, and we're heating it. Because what happens is when you use the hot broth as opposed to just pouring cold broth in, and you add a little bit at a time, it makes your risotto very creamy. So the onions are going to go in first. or actually onion. That's one big onion. That's a lot of onion. I've got the aromatics here. The aromatics are the sage, the pineapple sage that we chopped earlier, and the thyme that we chopped earlier as well. And you'll want to have those handy right on the side of the stove. I did not include white wine in this dish. If you like the flavor of white wine, it will enhance your dish. You could pick up like a nice Chardonnay because it's got that oakiness to it, and it'll give it, enhance the flavor and give it like a great earthiness. So I'm going to continue starting to stir this. Okay, now we're starting to go. You can hear a little bit of a sizzle here. So earlier I talked about using your own pumpkin, your own butternut squash, or kabocha squash, and I have the organic pumpkin puree. So what you would do is basically go ahead and peel all the skin off of your squash and take the seeds out, or your pumpkin, cut it into like 1-inch cubes, drizzle it with olive oil, a little bit salt, a little bit of pepper, and just roast it off in your oven at 400 degrees until it caramelizes, and you can add it in at the end instead of the puree. The onion is starting to cook off and get translucent. I'm going to go ahead and add the garlic in. These are the 2 large cloves that we chopped earlier. You know, if you have an instant pots are the things. You could really do this quickly in your Instant Pot. I've worked with them extensively and they do a fabulous job, especially that stainless steel lining in there that is in the inside, because you can just pull it off and bring it to the table if you'd like. And then we're going to add the aromatics in. So you can't beat the smell. We've got garlic, onions, the thyme, and the pineapple sage. And you're going to infuse your house with some wonderful aromas. Okay, our onions are not quite done, but what I like to do normally when I make a risotto is I always add the rice or the barley in. And so that's 1 cup, just to make sure you know. And let it cook in there and simmer with those onions and the aromatics. So the longer you take with your risotto and do it patiently, the creamier texture you get. So I'm going to go ahead and add a ladle. One more. And go and stir that till it's absorbed. So I have added about 1.5 quarts of chicken stock by now, and our risotto is coming out beautifully. I just have a tad bit more. This is including the 1.5, and I'm going to put that in, and we're going to turn up the heat. I'm just turning it up so it cooks a little quicker. And I'm going to keep stirring because we're at the point now where the barley's going to stick. And you always want to use a wooden spoon. I forgot to mention that. And it still has like a little bite to it, but it is cooked through. And we're going to cook some of the liquid out by doing this. As you can see, the steam's evaporating it, and the chicken flavor is going into the dish. And so I'm going to put, I think, about 1.5 cups of the puree in. Let's see how it looks. And if you've gone ahead and roasted chunks of squash or pumpkin, you can then go ahead and add your chunks in now. You can puree them or you can leave it chunky. It's looking beautiful. It's nice and creamy, as you can see. I think a little bit more pumpkin for a little bit more pumpkin flavor. I love barley. When I was a little girl, my father used to bring me to a Jewish delicatessen all the time, and I would eat mushroom barley soup. So it brings back good memories for me. So I'm actually going to use a clean spoon and do a taste test. I want to make sure that it's got some pumpkin flavor to it. Definitely. Now I'm going to add the cheese in. And we have about 1.25 cups of Parmesan cheese here. Going to mix that in. I left mine a little bit soupier. You could go ahead and make sure all your broth is cooked out when you're doing it. But I like the texture. I like it really creamy. So I'm going to go try it right now and see where the flavor profile is. Oh, that's wonderful. The cheese really does it. Adds a lot of flavor. And we are done. So we're going to go ahead and finish off the risotto by plating it. What I did was at the end, after I added the cheese, I went ahead and added some black pepper to it. I've got a spoon here and my wooden spoon. So what I did also was I left a little bit of the liquid. I like it where it's a little bit more soupy and not as dry, but you can cook it out for yourself if you'd like. And then I'm going to take some wonderful Fontina cheese as an accent to the dish. And I'm just going to go ahead and shave a few pieces with a knife. And sprinkle that on there to finish it off. And to make it, look really nice and pretty, there's some thyme. And voila, our dish is finished. Enjoy. Bon appetit.